As I've mentioned earlier, we've got before each and after each methods for each describe block. And this time we're going to use the after each as well. So after each and then function. The structure looks exactly the same as before each. Only this time the methods we're going to be calling will be on the HTTP backend. And the first one will be called verify no outstanding expectations. And this one, what it does, basically it verifies that all of the requests defined via the expect statement were made. So there's no outstanding ones, basically. And then the next one, HTTP backend again. And we're going for verify no outstanding requests, which is basically making sure that if we are making any Ajax calls, obviously fake ones because we're using this mock HTTP backend, that all of them have been flushed basically, and whatever was to be returned has been returned. This is just basically the way of clearing up the code basically after all the tests have been obviously run. We need to make sure that everything is clear basically. Okay, so this is our after each statement. Then we go for the first test. It should get all items. And then we go for the function. And inside of this function, because we already call, if I just scroll up a little bit, you may remember we've got this when, get, and obviously we call this specific URL, and we call it when the page first loads. Then in order to obviously return all this data, what we need to do is to use the HTTP backend and the flush method. This is basically executing this and assigning all the obviously returned items to the items array. And now we need we run the expect statement, and this expect statement we're going to be taking our scope and items dot length to be 2, and to be 2 because if we scroll up here, you can see that we've got items and only 2 items in this array. Again, this is just the fake data. This is just the data we're using for the testing purposes. We wouldn't want to interfere with the actual data in the database. That's why we're using this mock, obviously, to make sure that we can return whatever we want for the testing purposes, obviously. And most importantly, this HTTP backend allows us synchronous-like approach rather than asynchronous, which you would get with the standard calls using HTTP service in Angular. Obviously, in which case we don't have to wait for the response. We've got it straight away here. Basically, when this specific URL is called, return us this data. So there's no waiting time, basically. Okay, then expect, another expect statement, scope dot types dot length, and again to be 2 because we only return 2 types. So that's the first statement. Let's save it, and if we preview everything in a browser, refresh the page, you can see our third describe block here for the HTTP methods test, and should get all items is all successful.